3, 2.
Welcome, everybody. This is Jeff Colson with Junior Hockey Advisor Sunday night. And ready to talk a little hockey. Ready to talk a little juniors. We're going to talk a little college. And I came in tonight really thinking we're just going to have an open palette. And within the last hour, just as people start buzzing about, when I put out the notice for the show tonight, just lots of topics, lots of information came in, a lot of things to talk about. Yes, it is a coffee night. I got to be honest with you. It's going to be a coffee week for me. Still remodeling the house. Still trying to get this room and the room next to me. The floor is done. We've got vinyl siding going on starting tomorrow. Flooring guys in, kitchen guys in. It's been a mess, but we're almost done. You can see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't mix any metaphors there. I was going to say never mind. Listen, let's get rolling. We got a lot of things to talk about. Let's go. All right, so I did something silly today. I was actually cleaning this room as we move all the furniture out of this room to get the floor done. Found an old USA Hockey card from 1995-96. I got my that was my USA Hockey card that I got my sticker on for my Master Level 5 certification on. So it was kind of neat, and I posted it on my friends page, and then I got some positive reaction from it. I thought, I'm just going to post it up on the Junior Hockey Advisor site and just say, hey, show me your card. I've had more great direct message conversations with coaches today, and a little bit of conversations going, really fun conversations going on the website. But it's really fun when people actually start talking about how long they've been coaching and where they started coaching, and it's fun. It's part of this that makes it a lot of fun. This family that we've built, which keeps getting bigger and bigger every week, and we keep sharing information, we keep talking and discussing things, and you guys keep keeping it positive. It makes it fun. But yeah, we got some good stories going today. It was a lot of people. There's I thought I was one of the oldest ones out there. Now 1995-96 was not my first year coaching. I started back in the mid 80s, and I've told this story before, but it's kind of fun. My first coaching gig, I was playing on the All Marine team, and we practiced in San Diego. And I got off the ice from practice. We had our own locker room there, so I'm walking back to the locker room, and I got approached by this guy that says, "Hey, look, we're looking for a coach. Would you be interested in coaching?" Actually, he was referred over by our head coach. Our head coach goes, "Hey, go talk to Jeff and see if he's interested." So I said, I don't know anything about coaching, but I'd be glad to help if I can. He goes, "Look, it's $50 for every practice and $50 for every game that you come to." And I went, I'm in. So it was $100 a week. I think they practice once or twice a week, but it was $50 for the practices and then $50 for their game, and they played once a week. It was the National Novice Hockey League, and it was insane because it was high end. It was modeled after the National Hockey League, of course, but it was all novices, all people that had never played the game before and were just learning the game of hockey. And it was full equipment, 3 officials on the ice for men's league. It was mixed. It was men's and women's. There were scorekeepers. There were goal judges. And all of the uniforms from head to toe were matching. I'm talking matching helmets, matching cages, gloves, everything, home and away. And they needed a coach. So I ended up coaching this group. The only thing I knew how to teach was Russian circles. So we did Russian circles like for half the practice, every practice, which in hindsight for beginning skaters probably wasn't that bad of an idea. It probably worked out pretty well for them. But I'm still in contact with a few people from that group and from that era and that team, not just the team I was coaching, but some of the other guys. Because once again, it was a high-end item. You didn't go and play for $20 or $30 a game like you do now. These guys were paying some pretty hefty money at the time, relative to the time, I should say. But anyway, that was my first coaching gig. That was in the mid 80s. And I didn't know anything about it. In fact, to be honest with you, I keep saying that to this day. I keep learning and learning and learning and learning as I go along. And every time I learn something, I realize I'm still chasing the curve on catching up with this game. And I've been at it for 30 plus years, and I still don't think I have enough information to be a great coach. Because every time you think you've plateaued at something, there's something else to learn. There's some other thought process, methodology, coaching style, learning technique, teaching technique. And that's the beauty of this thing. You can't really run out if you go at this the right way. And pity the coach that thinks he knows it all. Pity the coach that thinks he's got it figured out, because that takes all the fun away from it. If you think you got it figured out, it takes some fun away. Anyway, we got a lot of things to do. If you haven't yet, go over to YouTube and subscribe. Junior Hockey Advisor. It's our weakest platform. We've got close to 5,000 people on our discussion group. We've got close to 5,000 people that follow our page, our Junior Hockey Advisor page, but we don't have that big of an audience on the YouTube side. Trying to grow that audience. So if you haven't yet, take the time, go over and subscribe. There is content. There is a lot of things going on over there that doesn't always circulate over to Junior Hockey Advisor, or it gets put out there fresh first, just like this broadcast right now. If you're not on live, the Facebook version gets put out after the Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube version does. So go on there. It's easier to sift through all of our video content from old shows, or just like we put out the 2 videos on the North American Hockey League, the draft, and how the draft works and how the tenders work. Those are available immediately. First, we debut them over on YouTube, and then we bring them over to our Facebook page. So if you haven't yet, jump over there and do that. Let's got a lot of things to talk about. First of all, let's our hearts and our hearts, our prayers. I don't even know how to say this. The families of the 3 players that were killed from the Delta Hockey Academy, all aspiring to move up the ladder, all in that big pivotal year where it's going to be fun. So take the time, maybe reflect on your family and how grateful you are for everything that happens with your family and your players. But also reach out if you can and say a prayer. If they've got a GoFundMe, which I don't know if that's going to happen yet, to try to support the families. I know I'll be involved. Maybe you should jump into if you can and be involved there too. It's always sad when we see these kind of things happen in the hockey world, and I don't even know how to go about saying anything more about that. But if you get a chance, do what you can to help the families and help support them in that situation. Hey, you see what's going on with Michigan? Yes, I know. I'm a University of Michigan grad. You're expecting me to say something great about Michigan, and I will. This is where my bias comes out. I try to stay right down the line, right in the middle of everything, not when it comes to the University of Michigan hockey, football, basketball, table tennis, anything Michigan. My wife and I graduated from there. A lot of our family has. My daughter graduated from there. You're going to get biased when it comes to Michigan, but holy smokes, Owen Power, number 1 overall draft pick in the NHL, decides to go back to Michigan. Okay, that's the dilemma with Big Ten teams, and especially Michigan in this category, is there are so many players that are one and done when it comes to the draft. They play a year, they get drafted, they play a year, boom, they're gone. For Owen Power to go back, now, granted, he was drafted by Buffalo. I don't want to say Buffalo's cancerous, but Buffalo's struggling on trying to find their identity, both with their coaching staff. The owners are still relatively new to this game, even though they're really not now. But I still don't think they found all the pieces. I don't think he wants to go there. And so by staying, now they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 players that are top 10 draft picks, top 10 first-round draft picks. And overall, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first-round draft picks on their roster for next year. They've got them for a couple of years because there's some guys that were lower first-round draft picks that assumed they were going to come back and were already planning on coming back. You add that on to, I think they've got 5 other NHL draft picks on this team. This team's going to have, they're double-digit on NHL draft picks, heavily loaded with first-round draft picks. Is this a trend? I don't think it's a trend, but I do believe that you're going to see the difference between a team, Michigan, who's always talented, always extremely talented, but usually doesn't go very far because they're young, super, super young. You start seeing this happen where these draft picks stay around for a little bit. Now you'll see what the real power of talent is. You can't win with freshmen going all the way with a freshman team. I should take that back a little bit. It's very rare to see teams excel with all freshmen with super young talent. It's going to be very, very difficult to do it. But you start seeing these draft picks come back like this, that's amazing. I can't wait to see what Michigan does. I can't wait to see where they go with this. But just keep an eye on that. I wished I had I got, because we're remodeling it, all my office goes out of here. As soon as the show's over, I'm like one of those guys that work for the bands, the roadies. I got to break down the studio and throw it the other room. So all my special effects and my logos and my on-screen stuff can't be hooked up tonight. So you don't get a Michigan song or you don't get a Michigan M up above my head here. So you'll have to wait on that till next week. Okay, so anyway, good to talk about that. Don't forget, please throw out your questions. You got any questions about it? Usually Jacob's on from North Carolina. He's actually refereeing a game tonight, but he wants me to get to his question. If you're part of our junior hockey advisor group, you'll see Jacob talk about topics from time to time. We're going to get on that. And the topic that he wanted me to discuss, and he sent me a DM on this, or he might even responded to last week's live stream, but he was talking about the process of going, how do you get that invite? We've talked about how the draft works. That was a really, the sound wasn't so good on that, and I apologize. I didn't realize it until after we published it last week, but we put the 2 videos out in the last 2 weeks. How the tender process works. It's a great little piece to explain the tender process. 5 minutes, then you get an idea of exactly how the tender process works in the North American Hockey League. It's important. It's important to know how that works if you're in that realm where you think you're going to ascend up into the ranks of junior hockey, and if there's a possibility of playing at the North American Hockey League level, understanding how the tender works, it's extremely important because it's not as black and white as you think, and it's a little bit more difficult to understand if you're from the outside looking in. But the other side of that is the draft, and we put the video out on the draft this week too. Now, what was interesting was, and many of you might not have noticed this, if you go and look at the comments on that draft video we put out about how the North American Hockey League draft works, one of the comments is, "Wow, I work in the North American Hockey League and I learned some things in this." That was actually from a general manager in the North American Hockey League. It wasn't just somebody that works in the league. That was from one of the general managers. So I feel really good when we're putting out content that people that are actually in positions of power inside of the North American Hockey League comment and say they're learning something from it. So maybe we're doing something good here. Maybe the ball's going in the right direction. So anyway, let's talk about that a little bit. First, let's say hi to some people. Let's see who's on here, and let's see who we can say hi to. Well, Melissa's on here and says, "Get that degree." I agree with you. I stuck. I didn't really have too much choice. When you're sitting in the press box for your whole career at Michigan, getting your degree becomes utmost the number one priority, and that was me. Okay, so I agree with you, Melissa. Get that degree. However, if you're a first-round pick and you're staring at millions of dollars and you're a knee injury away, boy, oh boy, signing that contract after your freshman or sophomore year is very, very difficult not to do. But go blue, I agree with you. I can't wait to see if they make it to the Frozen Four and where they go. Hey, Luis is on from Riverside. Good to see you back, Luis. Let's see what's else. We've got somebody on from Boston. We've got Sean in the house from Edmonton. And he actually throws a little bit of Edmonton flavor in and says, Edmonton is in the house. Chicago's on. Good to see Chicago on. Brooklyn, Michigan. Yeah, that's Melissa. We already said hi to Melissa. And Parker, Colorado. That must be Dave, our oldest Facebook junior hockey advisor, Facebook discussion group member. Dave has been around for a long time. And we've got Greg on from Amherstburg, Ontario. If you don't know where that is, start in Detroit, go across the bridge, turn right, you'll find it. Keeson from Pembroke, Mass. Good to see you. We've got somebody in from Knoxville. We've got somebody in from Amherst again. Welcome to all of you. And we've got probably another 40 or 50 on the different platforms, on each respective different platforms. Remember, we're live streaming to different platforms. I'm only seeing the Facebook crowd right now from one of their sources. So, yeah, I'd like to see them. I would like to see everybody. I wish the YouTube live and everything else could all give me comments, but I really don't have that figured out yet. Phoenix, see you on there too. Thanks for coming on board. So let's get to this question. And at any point, if you have questions, ask your questions. Just type your questions in. We'll get to them about anything related to the movement, the process of hockey. If the process is moving from U15 to 16, 16 to 18, 18 to juniors, juniors to college, one level of juniors to another, you got questions about anything in the process, let us know. We'll be glad to jump into the question. And if we can't answer it, I am sure we can figure it out along the way here. So, before we get to the topic, I need your help. This is going to be a tough one. I got to figure out a way to handle this with our live stream broadcast, with our family that we've grown in Junior Hockey Advisor. I did accept a position with a junior hockey team in their player development side. I'm going to be an associate player development. I can't name the team yet. It's not fully announced yet, but I will be working in the North American Hockey League starting immediately. Actually, I started last week. And I'll be working for one team. That implicitly adds bias to the way I see the world as far as I see it. I want to continue to do this. I want your thoughts on it as far as how we keep this rolling, even though I've always, for the last 4 or 5 years, I've taken the stance of standing back and helping from the outside, giving advice. But I'm jonesing to be involved with one team again. I've had this just urge to just want to not only do what we're doing because I really enjoy this. This platform has turned out to be phenomenal, and I don't want to lose it. But at the same time, I got to be in the rink. I got to be working with a team and help trying to build a team again. So let me hear your thoughts on that, on how we keep this rolling and keep this so that it's still that unbiased, unfiltered, pragmatic approach to looking at things. Maybe we can pull this off and we can still do it together. But if I start steering towards something too much, I need to be called and checked, and that's really where you come into play, and you can help me on that if possible. You might not even think it's a problem. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'd be glad to discuss that too. So anyway, let's get back to the topic. So on the videos we put out recently, we've covered the. It is by coincidence that the league we're focusing on right now is the North American Hockey League. That started a few weeks ago before this position came into play. But we talked about what a tender was, and we explained that. Then we went into talk about the draft, but there's 5 components of players that get into main camp. Remember, your only step, the draft, the tender, the returning player, free agent, or your affiliate players, 5 levels. Once again, you could be a draft pick. Let's go from the order of kind of importance to a team. You can be a player that is a returning player or a veteran. You can be a draft pick. You can be a tender. You can be a free agent, or you can be an affiliate player. That's pretty much what comes into a camp, okay? And in whatever form or fashion, those things punch your ticket to the main camp. Once you get at main camp, all bets are off. Now, once again, the reality is if you're a veteran player, you've been there 2 years and you're one of the top 5 scorers on the team, you're going to get punched through the main camp, and you're going to be on the roster that leads into the beginning of the season, the preseason roster. But in reality, everybody is fighting for a spot on that team. So there could be more, there's always going to be more people in camp, but there could be more talent in camp than you would ever expect. So how do you get there, and what does that mean? Well, we covered the draft pick and how that works. Like a team could have 5 draft picks in camp. A team could have 10, 12, 15, 17, depending on how many returning players. The equation is 35 players can be held through the summer, protected, okay? You take away the returning players, and let's say I've got 10 returning players, and your tenders. And every team's going to tender 10 players. So if I have 10 and 10, that's 20. I subtract that from 35, that means I get 15 players drafted. If I return 20 players, which would be awesome if you're a team that returns 20 players, doesn't happen very often, and you have your 10 tenders, now you have 30, that means you're only going to have 5. 35 minus 30 gives you 5. That means that's how many players you're going to have that you can draft. So that gets you that equation of why there's different teams and how they get drafted or how many players they draft each time. So with that said, you got draft picks, you've got the tenders, you've got veterans. Now the free agent category is the part that in the affiliates. Now free agents is means a lot of things. Okay, it means a lot of things. Free agent can be a veteran player coming in from another league. It can be a veteran player that was cut from a main camp from another North American Hockey League team. It could be a Tier 3 player trying to play up. It could be a USHL player that doesn't have a home, that didn't make a team or got released. It could be a BCHL player in the same boat. Free agent means a lot of things. It can be a Minnesota high school kid that didn't get drafted, didn't get tendered, but wants to jump into the North American Hockey League. So how do these teams find out about these guys? Well, there's a whole layer, and there's many ways. So first of all, every head coach and every assistant coach in the league, every general manager in the league is working to find players at all times. In most cases, the general manager, well, in a lot of cases in every league, the GM and the head coach are wearing the same hat. Now they're the same person. But in the situation where they're separated, the general manager usually takes the lead on the staff and the staffing in the field to actually help find players. So that's with scouts. Most of you know about scouts and how scouts work. They're people that are strategically placed around North America, and they're looking for talent, and they're looking for talent that they can either draft or tender depending on what level of talent they are. And this happens 24/7, 365. You've got people out there looking for talent across the board. So in a situation where you are looking to get into this, well, you can go through, being found by a scout. You don't have to be tendered or drafted to get into a camp. In fact, remember, the tenders and drafts and returning players only add up to 35. That means that there's a camp's going to have 100, 150 players in it. The majority of the camp is not going to come from that. So how do you get into camps? Yes, there's a reality to reaching out to each individual team, going on their website, clicking on the button and filling out the form that says, do you want to play, are you a future player for this team? Fill out this form. Get in their database. Okay, as much as you might not like being solicited, these teams do solicit players that sign up in their database. Now, there's a minimum criteria. Some of the teams will only invite players that are playing in the Beast, the NAPHL, the Tier 1 Elite, HPHL, in those leagues. But that's not necessarily true across the board. That's just where their criteria is. There's always exceptions, and almost every team will have players that are there on exceptions to their rules. So keep in mind, there's many ways to get there. You can go to a pre-draft camp. You can go to a league-sponsored, North American Hockey League camp, just like you can for any other league. That league-sponsored one is where the league brings everybody in, and you're being looked at by many, many people at the same time. There are always individual team or split team camps, pre-draft camps. In other words, there might be 2 or 3 North American Hockey League teams that are from the Midwest or from the South Division that team up together and hold an event in Detroit or hold an event in Chicago and invite players out there so they can look at these kids. Yes, you can come in the door that way. The other way you can come in the door is email the team directly and just get on board that way. But you need to actually be proactive. Yes, some players do get invited because a scout or a coach will watch them play. They'll walk down the locker room, they'll knock on the door, they say, Coach, can we talk to so-and-so? They pull so-and-so out of the locker room, they have that conversation with them, and they say, hey, look, we'd love you to come to our main camp, we'd love you to come to our pre-draft skate, whatever they want to do. Not every team puts a lot of emphasis on their pre-draft skates. Some put a lot of emphasis on their pre-draft skates. Every team works a little bit differently. But you've got this network of scouts out there that are building lists all year round. And remember, some of this is pretty intricate. Some of it's 1 or 2 people working very hard. You've got teams out there that are on the top in the USHL and on the top of the North American Hockey League where they've got one or two people driving the ship that just are out there everywhere that are filling teams. Now, remember, there's other ways to get into camps too. I've mentioned this a lot of times. You've got programs that are directly affiliated with some of the spring programs in these spring showcase teams. Spring showcase teams are legitimate now, okay? You might not think that there's many people watching from the stands like there used to be, but that's because they're all have built relationships. The credibility of the coaches on this, and I've given you an example before. Like it or not, one of the guys that had one of the most successful programs in the showcase world is now a general manager in the North American Hockey League because he was pumping out so much consistent talent from his showcase team. They brought him on board as a scout. They moved him into player development, and they moved him into GM just because he's got this pipeline of players. It works. So these showcase teams that people think that, no. Don't look at showcases as a money grab. Don't look at showcases as there's nobody in the stands watching me. You get on a showcase team that's connected or is going to play connected teams. You go there as a parent and you talk to people. You go there as a player and you show your best and you work hard and know that you're being looked at every single second when you're there at these events, because somebody's watching when you're getting dressed in the locker room. Somebody's watching when you're walking to and from the rink. Somebody's even probably watching you at the hotel from time to time. There's eyes on you, and those events are good to find players. So yes, the easy way is to play on a Tier 1 elite team or a really good NAPHL team or a Beast team and move the way up there. The best way is that you'll get noticed if you're playing on one of those teams. But I just looked and reviewed a bunch of the different main camps. There's still a few AA kids that make it to main camps. Now, I know of last year, the team that won it all was Shreveport. My son was on the team. Most of you know that. One of the defensemen on the team played AA hockey the year before that. It's not impossible to make it up from AA to the North American Hockey League. The odds are very slim. I wouldn't use that as it's kind of like people talk about late bloomers. And you hear USA Hockey saying this all the time. They always advertise when somebody's a late bloomer. Look, take your time, take your time. Okay, do I want to model my ascension up the ladder over the once in a while occasional player that is a late bloomer in their eyes or is a AA player? No. What I want to do is I want to model it after things that are the most successful and know that there's other people that you can still get there in many different ways. So let me know your thoughts on this. I want to read some of the comments here and see where we're at. Because this is all about you on this. Hey, James, thanks so much. Congrats. We'll fill you in as soon as I can on this. This says, with so many few of the NA3 players moving in the NAL, what is the point of the NA3? Isn't it better just to play on the best U18 team you can? Well, that's a really good question. I'm a proponent, if you listen to anything I said from day one. If you're age appropriate for U18 and you've got an opportunity to play on a solid U18 team, you absolutely want to play on a solid U18 team. U18 teams are still getting looked at by scouts. U18 teams are getting looked at by colleges. U18 teams are getting looked at by junior programs at all levels. So if you're in a solid program, and once again, what are the solid programs? Tier 1 Elite, HPHL, your Beast program, your NAPHL, the upper echelon. Those are the ones you're going to want to shoot for first. Now, there's other leagues out there too. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to miss one. I'm not trying to offend anybody if there's another strong league. But those are statistically the leagues that get pulled from. So statistically, yes, if you're age eligible, you want to play U18. Now, not everybody can do that because in some markets, the U18 programs, those leagues aren't available, or the family's not ready to have their player move to another market to play U18. So there's a junior team to play for, and they opt to use that. But you're absolutely right. We know statistically it is very, very difficult to move from NA3HL. In fact, if you watch the video I just did on the two videos I put out on the tenders and on the drafts, you'll see that coming from the USPHL, Premier, coming from the EHL, or coming from the NA3HL, statistically, it's extremely difficult to move in to the North American Hockey Leagues from those leagues. One of the things is because they're just not watched like the NCDC is watched for prospects. like the BCHL is watched for prospects, like the top U18 leagues are watched for prospects. They're just not watched enough because you focus on where your success is going to usually come from. Scouts look at the world statistically, okay? Scouts, GMs, coaches look at the world by, if I know I go to this event with all U18 teams on the weekend versus going to a Tier 3 showcase, what are the odds of me finding good quality players that will move to my league from here versus going to a Tier 3 junior event? Now, there's some great players in the Tier 3 junior, but they're not necessarily great when they move to the North American Hockey League. Okay, at the U18 level, there is a large portion of those players that will be moving on. Now, people say all the time, the argument comes back, U18 hockey is weak, U16 is powerful. Of course, U16, you start seeing a split off and people go in different directions. They go to prep, they go to junior, not all go to U18. But if you stay in the core leagues that I'm talking about, in the top teams in the core leagues that I'm talking about, you're absolutely going to be watched and seen. I can tell you right now, I will be at Blaine watching the Tier 1 Elite. I will be watching the NAPHL events. I'll be watching Beast events live, but I'm not going to go watch many USPHL Premier games or EHL games. And I have the utmost respect for those leagues, but statistically, it's just not going to. Yes, could there be 2 or 3 players that could potentially, make the roster of a North American Hockey League team? Yes, there is, but there's 15 or 20 at the Tier 1 Elite event, maybe more. Okay, that's why coaches and scouts do what they do. So when they say, this is the thing that bothers me the most at times, when people say, if you're good enough, they'll find you. Well, not if you're not playing in the right leagues, the right places. Okay, you can be really good, and if you're playing in the Georgia High School League, and you only play on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock because that's the only time they get ice, you're most likely not going to have too many junior scouts watching you. Now, your coach may be connected enough to get somebody to watch you because, he knows people, but the reality is not many people are going to watch you playing in a league that's really weak, okay? And no offense to Georgia and high school hockey. I don't even know if Georgia has high school hockey. So hopefully that'll answer some questions for you. Let's see what else we go. So let's get back here. That's nice here. Let's see. Melissa says, I think you're the professional enough not to name drop or drag down others. You can keep sharing the information without dogging others. Players' needs and levels have always been open and honest. Thank you. I appreciate that. We all know the kids in the number 1 team. Some of the better. Okay, so that it fades out automatically. I didn't turn that off, Melissa. It just comes off the screen quick. Thank you. I'm going to give it a go on trying to do both these at the same time. I'm also thinking about bringing some guests in on the show that can fill in from time to time to kind of give you some other perspectives too. So, all right, what's Luis? We're going to be at Blaine September 15th to 19th. Hope to see you there, 16U. I'll watch some 16U, but my initial impact, my initial focus is going to be in 18. You see this mug. It's not hard to hide this mug. I'll be there. Please come up and say hi to me if you see me in Blaine, if you see me at a Beast event, if you see me anywhere in the rinks, come up and say hi. I love talking. Clearly, I love talking. That's what I'm doing right now. So anyway, did we answer the question? Did we help you understand a little bit about getting into main camp? And remember, we've discussed this before. It doesn't matter what program you're in. Getting into main camp and leaving main camp is not a definition of making a league. Okay, you're going to still see a 30% chop from main camp. Besides, remember, 35 is the protected list. Some teams will come in with 40 or 45 into the preseason, and they'll actually run 2 teams, back and forth during the preseason camp, and they'll trim down from there. Now, so you've got the possibility of, let's just use that round number of 40. 35 protected players, 5 unprotected. Let's say they're free agents that come in. Okay, so they're battling to get into that final 23 spots. Now, remember, COVID's over, so our numbers that can be protected during the year drop drastically down from last year. What we ran last year, 25, 28. The number was high last year. It's 23 this year, and the USHL is 21. So that extra level of protected players isn't happening this year like we had in the pandemic. So once you're in that preseason camp, you've got 40 players there battling, struggling, fighting, trying to prove themselves to make that team. Now, some are going to get sent back to the U18 teams. Some are going to get sent to NA3HL teams. Some are just going to get cut, and some may be traded. All different ways that you're going to see players leave. But remember, just as that roster starts to look like it's forming up and you start getting comfortable, what happens? The USHL trims down to their final 21. So it floods the market again with quality players. We're not talking about players that are trying to move up to the level. These are players that are par or better than some of the guys on your team. They're coming from the USHL. These might be veteran players. Very often they're veteran players. And they're players that were literally on that roster last year. They were veteran players that made the team last year, played a full season, got an invite to go up to a USHL camp and were the last cuts. And they're going to come back down to the team they were on before. Remember, they weren't counted in that protected list. So all of a sudden now they're going to bump somebody. You're going to have another USHL guy bump somebody. Maybe from the BCHL, they're going to bump somebody. And rarely, pandemic year was a lot, but rarely you'll also see somebody that wasn't quite ready for college that still has some eligibility, or maybe the college didn't work out the way they thought it was going to work out, that they trickle back into the league too. So you've got all these factors that can interrupt what you think is a smooth sail once you start coming out of main camp. Main camp to the preseason is when you really have to work to lock in and save your spot. Once that preseason's there, you're going to go a game, 2, 3 games into the regular season before the final roster's trimmed. But at the same time, the USHL is doing the same thing, and they're sending guys down. So you've got to stay on your toes. You cannot rest at any time in that league. That's just the way it works. Now, does that trickle down as much to the North, the NA3 or the EHL or to the USPHL Premier? A little bit, but not anywhere near the same impact the USHL cuts have on the North American Hockey League. So does that help? Did you get a little out of that? I know we went for 37 minutes here. I'll keep rambling for a couple minutes to give anybody a chance that wants to ask any questions or to make any comments across the board. I'm just looking at my different sources here while we're talking to see if anything is popping up question-wise. And okay, so the question came up. I don't know why it didn't pop up on this. The question came up from Lisa. What's the average number of players that are attending training camps? Okay, remember the training camp is in the fall. Main camp is the summer camp that trims down to get ready for the preseason. In the North American Hockey League, you can protect 35 during the summer. Tier 3, I'll have to go back and confirm the number, but it's going to be roughly the same. And that number gets trimmed down when the season starts. Tier 3 teams tend to keep a lot more players. They'll go over their protected number. Let's say the number, and I'll have to look on the Tier 3 side. Let's say the number of protected is either 25 or 28. You could see 30, 35 kids that are protected or not on a roster, and that number is going to be beyond the protected number of 25 or 28, whatever it's at. But I didn't see that number. I didn't really look for that number yet. I know what the USHL protected number is. I know what the null protected number is. But so you've got 35 going into a null camp or a USHL camp. That number is going to get trimmed down respectively to 23 and 21, depending on which of the two leagues you're in. So hopefully that helped a little bit on that. Manitoba is in watching. Tam, thanks for watching. Mary Jo is on. Thanks for watching out in Washington. Anthony's on from Worcester. Thanks for watching. Rusty's on. Rusty makes the comments. One of the things I love about hockey is the game is constantly changing. Amen on that. Rusty's got another comment there I can't see. My cousin Jeannie's on from the great state of Michigan, in the somewhat great place of Flint, Michigan, where I was born. Okay, Tony's on from Rockford. Dan's on from Sheboygan, Michigan, only second to Sheboygan. He's on from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, only second to Sheboygan, Michigan. Great place, though. I love Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Rich is on from Potsdam. I just flew over Potsdam the other day, said hello to some people on the ground by tipping the wings, letting them know I was there. Patrick's on from Toronto. We got a good crowd on. I'm very surprised at what we've got on here. So, all right, folks, let's see if we've got anything else that are coming in. NCDC information. we're going to do the questions on is, do we have any NCDC information? We're going to do our NCDC breakdown really soon, along with the EHL. Give everybody, basically NCDC, we're going to do the USPHL from top to bottom. I'm working on some videos right now for that and the EHL, and also for the NA3, so people got a good sense of all the different leagues. The biggest thing to know about the NCDC versus other leagues, remember, the USA Hockey only recognizes Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 1 being the USHL, Tier 2 being the North American Hockey League, and Tier 3, which they recognize the North American 3 League and the EHL. There's only 2 leagues that are recognized at Tier 3, one at Tier 2, one at Tier 1. So you've got the NCDC that's, they're a self-proclaimed Tier 2 league. Now, it's also tuition free, which makes it nice, and in that respect, it is a Tier 2 league. But statistically, just purely statistically, this is not on how many butts on the bench are committed to Division One. It's how many new Division One players are created from the time the season starts to when the season ends. They barely break the double digits on new created Division One commitments. In other words, if I start on the roster at the beginning of the year and I do not have a Division One commitment, at the end of the year, I have one. Ting, that's one. So they only get into the double digits, meaning somewhere 9 to 12 on an average year for them, as far as fresh committed players that happen during the year. So where do those other players come from? Those are players that already had their commitment. They either got it during the prep years, they got that commitment playing in another junior league, they got that prep when they were playing U16, U18, and then they joined an NCDC team. And remember, the vast majority of your Division I commit players play on 2 teams. In the whole league, they play on 2 teams. They play on the Boston Junior Bruins, and they play on the Hitmen. Now, there's some other teams, Connecticut will have a few here and there that jump up, and they do a good job. But the consistency from day one in that league and the model is built around 2 teams having all the power for the most part. And you can see that just year in and year out on who's always on top. Is that right or wrong? Not judging that model. Every time I've thought that model was going to implode, they're around for another year. And people tend to enjoy that model at the NCDC level. At the USPHL Premier level, we'll talk about that too. My thought on that is my only concern with the USPHL is not that it's giving players opportunities. It's clearly giving players opportunities. But because it's so vast, it's so spread out, the consistency of the Premier brand has been jeopardized because some of the teams from different areas are not competing at the power level of some of the teams that have been around and established for a while. So that's my only concern there. It's not a concern about being better or worse. It's a concern of statistically where do they fit in. Okay, and people really need to understand where they fit in statistically, and that is part of the game. So hopefully that helps a little bit. With that said, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to call it a night so I can roll up the carpet, take down all the lights, take down the cameras, and get myself ready to get some new flooring in the whole bottom of our house. It's just been super busy. On the personal, we're trying to get the house done. Our daughter just graduated from law school. She's in Dallas now. It gives me a chance to visit Dallas and move down there. Not move. No, we're not moving. Wife just took a new job. She's an attorney, so we're moving in a new direction there. Our son just finished up his year in Shreveport and is going to college in Wisconsin. So he moves out this week. Pretty busy around here, and I'm trying to move on to some different ratings in my piloting. So a lot of things going on. I accepted a new position too in hockey. Really whirlwind. So I plan on making it through and staying consistent on the live streams every Sunday night. But please bear with me because we're trying to get over the hurdle here for the next few weeks here. Okay, one last question here. I can see a couple things. I'll answer a couple more. We're still young in the show. Okay, Dave says, what are your thoughts on the new USA Hockey rule of getting rid of the delayed offsides at all levels? Look, every time I take a stance on USA Hockey, I can tell you I'm not a fan of a lot of things USA Hockey does. Never have been. USA Hockey, this is my personal opinion, needs to worry less about changing rules that that really they think they're adjusting the game and they're trying to micromanage the game. I don't really see I don't really see the need to make that change. I wasn't a fan of the blue puck. I wasn't a fan of changing the checking. I'm not a fan of a lot of things. Now I understand why they do things. I'm more concerned about people getting used to this new icing issue with penalties that you can't ice the puck anymore. Now, is it good or bad? I can't tell if it's good or bad. I can tell you this. It's going to make teams have to work their butts off to get the puck out of the zone and control the puck out of the zone or take an icing call. Is it good or bad? I don't know. I can tell you that I'm not a fan, but I understand it. I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out. And I hope that USA Hockey proves me wrong. I hope that this makes better hockey players. I hope that collectively their brain works better than my brain. And we'll see. We'll see if that's the case across the board. I can't really give you any more on that. Question comes is, does the NCDC send a lot of players to D3? Absolutely. Absolutely. They do have a tremendous amount of players. I believe the EHL is still, the top source or one of the top sources for players, but you have an established numbers of players coming from the North American Hockey League is still a huge provider of talent to the NCAA Division III level. Most of your North American Hockey League players are going to end up on your top echelon, top talented teams, or your NESCACs, where you rarely see those players go to your bottom thirds. Your bottom thirds are usually filled with your NA3HL players, your USPHL Premier players, and even some of the elite players will pop in on the bottom third. That middle ground is NCDC and EHL. They battle for that middle to upper tier players in the Division III level. So absolutely, they do kick out talent. They kick out a lot of good talent. There's an incredible amount of talent that comes out of the NCDC. The only difference between the NCDC and others that are producing good talent, and the NCDC produces great talent, but the EHL has pretty much resigned themselves to saying, we are really good in our bandwidth, and our bandwidth is D3 hockey. If you come here, you're going to play, you're going to have an opportunity to play in front of really good D3 programs, and you're going to end up finding a home with a really good D3 program, and you have time to explore that because we're right in the middle of all these D3 programs. You're going to get a chance to see these campuses. You're going to meet the coaches. You're going to be a part of it. The NCDC really is reluctant to either recede back or to be able to beat the North American Hockey League in the East right now. So since the North American Hockey League over the last 5 years is expanded right into that area, and that East has gone from just having Johnstown at one point, Johnstown and Wilkes-Barre, Scranton. Wilkes-Barre's not there anymore, but now you've got Maine, Maryland, the Northeast, and you've got missing somebody, the Generals and whoever else. And then you still have Johnstown and Jamestown. The East is much, much different than it used to be. Now there's a lot of North American Hockey League teams that are producing talented Division I kids. That division, just that one division of the NAHL, produces 2-3 times as many fresh commits as the whole NCDC does, the whole league does. So I know I got off the question. The question is, does the NCD produce good talent? Yes, it does. D3 talent, good D3 talent, absolutely across the board. So, okay. Is a player that is playing U16 allowed to suit up for some games with an NCDC team that drafted him? Vincenzo, I can't really answer that because remember, USA Hockey rules are here. The NCDC rules are kind of tucked in the front vest. You don't really see how the draft works because it's not as transparent. You don't really see the overall league rules, the discipline, how things work across the board. It's a little more tucked in and a little bit harder to get. And honestly, I've never taken the time to really push the people that I know that are GMs and owners and coaches to find out. I would probably say the answer is yes. If he's talented enough to skate, they'll probably get him in a game or two. But I can't really tell you the answer to that. across the board. Oh, Danbury, thank you so much on the answer. The team I was missing from the East is that Danbury, which Danbury, being in Connecticut, is prime to start even chipping away at some of the prep kids and trying to pull them in from the BCHL. So we'll see how that all plays out. Hopefully this has helped tonight, folks. I enjoyed the heck out of it. Lots of good things to come. I'll keep you in the loop on things. Remember, if you haven't yet, go over and subscribe to our Junior Hockey Advisor YouTube page. That would really help us. We're trying to build that audience too. And I always want to have, a little backup in case this Facebook thing and all the policies and politics that go on with Facebook. I want to have a second source there so that we can keep things going if things fall apart and go to hell in a handbasket with some of the platforms around. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your week, and I will give you information on my new position as soon as I can, but I can't let the cat out of the bag before it's announced by the team and the powers that be. Have a great night once again. Take care, and it was a blast seeing you all tonight.